How's it going, everyone? Well, of course, today you'll be seeing is a breakdown and review of the auto rifle in Destiny called Abyss Defiant. The only way to get it is by beating the bridge section on hard mode Crota's End Raid. It's random though, so you're not guaranteed to get it even if you beat the bridge, and believe me, I know this because it took me 12 times of beating the hard mode bridge section before it finally actually dropped for me. So on to the review. It starts with a 300 base damage and increases to a max of 331 when you're completely finished with the upgrades. You're going to need Glimmer, Weapon Parts, and Radiant Energy in addition to Relic Iron, Spirit Bloom, or whatever it is for your particular weapon to upgrade it. The fire rate is 88%. It has an impact rating of 8, so it's one of the lower overall DPS style of weapon assault rifles. A range of 25, a stability rating of 44, a reload percent of 85, which is fantastic, and a magazine size of 31. So like I said, it's of the higher fire rate but lower impact model, but it has a sort of... The magazine size of 31 is decent, but it's sort of small for a weapon of the lower impact caliber. If you own the Vanguard auto rifle up for anything, it has a very similar feel without the focus fire perk, which I'll get to. But with the focus fire perk, it feels a lot like Suros Regime with lesser impact. The fast reload and decent magazine size will help counter that low impact, however. In terms of PvP damage output, it hits for 20 on body shots and 25 on headshots. With regard to the skill tree, of course, since it's raid weapons, all Abyss Defiants have no variation. Every single one deals solar damage. You have 3 clear options in terms of sight. The Quick Draw IS, which increases reload speed. The Red Dot ORS, which is my particular choice, increases stability and range. And the Red Dot OAS, which increases stability the most of any of the 3. The choice is yours, and like I've said, I choose the Red Dot ORS because of the double range and stability buff. When breaking down the skill tree, you have a choice over the first most important perk. Hip Fire, which increases, of course, hip fire accuracy, and Focused Fire, which I alluded to earlier, which decreases the fire rate when you aim down sight, but it increases damage per shot. There's an interesting debate going on here with regard to the choice you should make, but it has nothing to do with actually hip firing. Some claim that Focus Fire is currently bugged and not working properly and leads to a damage model that doesn't actually buff the aim down sight damage. On the other hand, some claim that it's working fine, but the increased fire rate without Focus Fire allows for more DPS as long as you're on target anyway. Of the many tests that I've seen and actually experimented in the small, short time frame I've had the weapon, I find on average the hip fire perk, which keeps the fire rate high, allows for more overall DPS as long as you're able to counter the increased recoil. But since the recoil is pretty pronounced, I personally find that even if the DPS was higher with the hipfire perk, I still choose the focused fire perk because I feel I can be more accurate and continually hit more headshots at range, at medium to longer range with the slower fire rate, even if it does sacrifice DPS as possibly stated. But there's a big debate on this going on right now. The next 3 perks which you'll have a choice over are Single Point Sling, which allow you to switch weapons faster and move faster while aiming. Perfect Balance, which dramatically increases stability, which would be my choice. And Lightweight, which allows your character's movement speed with the weapon to increase when equipped. And of course, my choice, like I said, is Perfect Balance. If you pair this with Focus Fire, you have an incredibly easy to control weapon in medium and even longer range. The key perk of note is Lich Bane, which has the chance to for shots landed on wizards to disorient them. It procs pretty often, and in my experience it lasts approximately 5 seconds, meaning wizards don't move around as quickly and can't counterattack you. It does help to have against Omnigul and or Ute, but it isn't completely necessary, and I'll get to that in a minute. Lastly, Hive Disruptor is the one last perk of note, which increases damage to Hive Majors. The remaining last 5 perks are damage upgrades. With regard to my overall impressions, in PvE it can hold its own in pretty much all Destiny content if you regulate your range, especially if you're using the Focus Fire perk, because it really does make this weapon easier and more effective to use. It will slaughter solar buff nightfalls or weeklies and make quick work of daily or rock strikes. Though it can be effective in hard mode Crota runs, and despite the fact that I do like the weapon in general, I do feel outside of the bridge encounter, which usually involves sniper rifles and Gjallarhorns anyway, and the Ur-Yut fight in Crota's End and the Omnigul Strike itself, having the key perk of the weapon revolve around disorienting wizards sort of seems like a perk that takes away from the effectiveness of the weapon. Because outside of the listed moments, you're not going to encounter very many wizards, and you most certainly can counter these wizards without this perk. So its potential is sort of capped by that perk. Combine this with the lower fire rate model, or the lower overall impact model, I should say. The weapon can be out DPS'd for a very large amount of weapons in this game. So that perk, which would have added another form of benefit to the weapon besides disorienting wizards, would have been really nice. But those would be my concerns worthy of mention. In PvP, similar to PvE, you'll want to stay in medium to longer range encounters with this weapon with the focus fire perk equipped. But you can go to shorter and medium range with the hip fire perk attached. That perk choice will determine your range of best effectiveness. If you're choosing the hip fire perk, you're also going to want to probably choose something like lightweight to keep you more mobile, make you a harder target. But you probably are better off just going with a shotgun anyway. The weapon's perk set gives you versatility to match an aggressive or passive playstyle, but to be honest with you, I think a more passive playstyle will reward you a lot more when using this weapon than aggressive. So overall, I am actually enjoying using this weapon despite getting it only recently, and it basically feels like a combo of Suros Regime and Up for anything in both PvE and PvP. But I must admit that I use Focus Fire all the times, even if I'm sacrificing DPS. I don't enjoy using this weapon without it, to be honest. There's plenty of weapons that will still out DPS it, and I feel like the Lichbane perk is a bit of a letdown that takes away the overall potential. But I do feel this weapon will have utility in just about all Destiny content. It's not at all a bad weapon to have, and not one that I would consider immediately sharding as opposed to several other weapons. Well, that's the review. Thanks.